Welcome, everyone, to this live webinar on energy healing for sleep and dreams. Yeah, so not a lot of questions came in on today's session, but maybe questions will arise in your mind as we're going along, and feel free to share those and we'll look into it. But I'm really excited about being able to move further along the path of deep energy healing for sleep and dreams, because we did a session on this. I think it was in November or December. There was one in between, so it would have been November, I guess. And it was not only really successful, but it felt like we were just barely scratching the surface. So I thought it would be very nice to do another one now, especially this is a beautiful time of year to do healing for sleep and dreams, because we have such long, cool nights here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's optimal sleeping season. Yeah, very sweet energies coming in from the stars and the planets from our universe. It shines in, it's like a softer light, right? A subtler light that shines in, that dominates the hours that we're awake or asleep, that we're existing in the 24-hour cycle. Anyway, it's a great time to do this. So I'm really happy you guys are all here. I'm going to close the people window and I'm going to open the question and answer window. Hello. Oh, good. Okay, we've already got some questions coming in. Perfect. Beautiful. Oh, you guys, so good. Let's start, though, as usual, with a brief review of what is energy healing, and then prayer of gratitude, and then diving into today's topic. Energy healing is an approach toward inner spiritual evolution and growth and physical well-being, really growth and well-being and evolution on every level of the person and personality. And this particular angle is based on taking the time and energy and effort to consciously understand, to intentionally understand the mechanics of how consciousness becomes matter, how consciousness and how the laws of nature within the field of consciousness interact specifically to give rise to a field of expression, the whole field of expression, the created universe in which we exist. And it's been my experience, and it's only my experience, but I came across this because I too was trying to heal. And I found that the healing process was facilitated by engaging in an inquiry and understanding and thinking and knowing, using that understanding to help direct the intelligent flow of awareness in order to get better results in the healing process. And it worked. And that was really cool when it worked. So, yeah, I was doing that by myself for a long time, trying to keep it a secret best I could. But after a while, the cat was out of the bag. So, nothing to be done about that. Now, here we are. Anyway, I'm really grateful to all of you for joining me for this adventure. And as always, our time together is extremely enriching to me as well, hopefully also to you. But I find it enriching because when we're together like this, exploring the field of energy healing, I feel that everyone's point of perspective adds depth and richness to my own point of perspective. I understand more and better. And your questions are like really captivating and really interesting. And like, there's just so much about doing this together as a group that makes it really special. So thank you to all of you for joining me tonight. And in the future, for those who watch after the fact, when it's not a live stream, also everybody's point of attention and perspective counts and contributes. Hang on, I have a heater. It's the middle of winter in Iowa, so it's getting a little too warm though. Yeah, so I appreciate everyone So, on that note, the next part of our webinar is to take a few minutes of silence because the silent source of creation is the fountainhead of all healing. So it's good for us to take a few moments right here at the beginning, a little experiential time to just dive in and see what's what with all that, just to have a few moments of experiencing it together in our collective. So I'm going to keep track of the time. Don't mind the time. And in 3 minutes, I'll ask you to open the eyes. First, I'll ask you to close the eyes and I'll ask you to open the eyes. When I ask you to open the eyes, don't open and come out too fast. Just take your time and savor and appreciate the more tender levels of your experience as we're coming out. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to close my audio now. Let's close our eyes. All right. Let's take a few moments before opening the eyes. Take your time. Hi, welcome to the webinar, guys. This webinar is about sleep and dreams. And I wanted certainly to talk about sleep and dream experiences. And I know some questions are coming in about that right now, which is just great. And I have more questions down here too. But I don't just want to talk about the traditional role of sleep and dreams, or maybe it is a traditional role, that some of the best, most powerful evolutionary experiences we ever have occur during sleep and dream time. I know a lot of people feel like, oh well, my dreams are just really chaotic, and I don't remember my deep sleep, and how can anything really of particular value occur during that time other than just getting refreshed, and reestablishing adenosine triphosphate at a subcellular level or within my mitochondria or whatever. But the truth is that it's a really special time. It really is. So I wanted to start with just a little kind of slight review of the previous, the November's session, where we talked about how the waking state of consciousness in its, I would say, because of the way it engages so much the brain, it helps to support and cultivate cosmic consciousness, waking consciousness. Waking consciousness leads to cosmic consciousness. But dream consciousness leads to God consciousness, and deep sleep consciousness leads to unity consciousness. It's like those are the states of consciousness where those, the waking, dreaming, sleeping, are the states, or the times when the nervous system is functioning in such a way as to best integrate and stabilize and unfold those higher states of consciousness. I would just like to put that out there. And we mostly experience waking consciousness here in the head, right? We experience our self-conscious mind coming from the head. The heart area is where we experience, it's like awareness is dominant in the head during waking consciousness. Awareness is dominant in dream consciousness in the heart area, which is why when we dream, the orderliness and the solidity of, oh, thank you. I'm supposed to do my prayer of gratitude. Thank you. I'll do that in just a second. The orderliness and solidity of the conscious experience of reality becomes kind of chaotic. It almost becomes abstract, right? In dream consciousness, a lot of people experience just sort of a seemingly incoherent string of different dream sequence experiences, right? But what ties them together is the feeling. There's a feeling that will follow you from one, you're out in nature doing something, and then the next moment you feel you're inside somewhere and there's a bunch of people, and then the next moment you're in a more kind of quiet, intimate place with just one or two people, and then the next moment you're doing something else. And it's like dreams can be like that because the awareness has moved into the heart, into the big heart, Mahamarma, the heart area, and the sort of the deep changes that are taking place in the area of maximum coherence of awareness is in the feeling, not in the thinking area. And then, of course, in deep sleep, even the feelings become a little kind of chaotic and not as heavily structured, because the awareness goes into that really deep abstract level, that very deep, unconstrained by space and time level of awareness, which is overseen by, to a large degree, the types of movements and changes that take place in the enteric nervous system. Very abstract, like very, very deep feelings. Anyway, I just wanted to put that up there first. And these, of course, correlate with the three levels. And I'm just going to show you the chart now, because the chart is just such a glory. I don't know if you guys remember how this chart started out, but it's become extremely beautiful. So here's the chart. And let's see if we can put me in there too, just for the fun of it. Not that I'm that great, but I kind of, with my blue background and blue shirt, I kind of fade into the background here. So we can see that the self is comprised in layers, but you notice how it's simpler now. This is a simpler chart, but I would say more elegant. And what's really important about this chart is this lotus shape is not accidental and it's not random. It is intentional, because we've got the physical form of the body, the mental, emotional form of the body. So physical form of the body associated with waking state, mental, emotional form of the body, which becomes really active during dream state, and then the noetic form of the body, which becomes really active during deep sleep. But connecting them all is this divine presence label down here. I don't know how well people can see that. Let's just, you can scroll in just a little bit. The divine presence permeates all of it. And another word for the divine presence is etheric body. That there's a kind of, whoops, let's try this way. There's an etheric form of the body that runs through all of the forms. So etheric is the life force, it's the energy, it's the presence of the divine that ties these layers of the body together and imbues them with intelligence and action and consciousness. Essentially, we could say consciousness. You could say it's the consciousness that's in them, but I'm using the word divine presence or etheric body just because sometimes we think of consciousness as completely unmanifest. And this etheric double, there's an etheric form of the physical body, an etheric form of the mental body, an etheric form of the noetic body, is not really completely unmanifest. It's just more like a pure energy form that goes along with and imbues those aspects of the physical form with life. It's good, just as a little kind of, stable structure on which to hang today's session. All right. Oh, he's saying prayer of gratitude. Thank you to the creator of all the worlds for being everything, for creating humanity and imbuing us as human beings with awareness, with our etheric bodies and with our physical, mental, emotional, noetic bodies, and for being the very light of life that flows through all of this, and for being the source of all healing, and for giving us the ability, forgiving us, and for giving us the ability to move our awareness through this system to illuminate what's happening in the body at all these different levels, and to understand it and to work with it, and to get our awareness down into the gap, the all-important gap where the actual energy healing process occurs. Thank you to all of you for being here for this webinar and for the gift of healing for sleep and dream states. May we all come out of today's webinar with a nervous system that is better adapted to providing really profound, beautiful, nourishing, purifying, holy sleep for everybody here. May we all sleep like babies from this time forth. Thank you, everyone, for being with me. Thank you to the creator of this big creation for guiding us through this whole experience and expression. Thank you. Thank you. I was saying how the deepest level of energy, where energy healing actually happens, back to the chart. Energy healing actually happens deep down here in this gap. Isn't this beautiful? I can just zoom in and it's crystal clear, absolutely beautiful. It's not showing. Oh, is it just me showing? Yeah. I'm sorry. Let's try this. There we go. We just zoomed in. So we were zoomed out, right? And then we zoom in. This is where energy healing happens, guys. It's in this gap between the absolute silence of being and the finest level of creation. So you'll notice that this happens in the noetic body. This is the noetic body, which means, and this is important, you guys, that the most important, deepest healing that we experience anytime during our days and nights is in deep sleep. The nature of deep sleep is to give us really, really deep transformative healing and evolution and experiences of intimacy with the creator. Because there is in my chart, is the gap, is where the seed or the source of the relationship between the individual and the divine sits right there. So let's take a moment. This is a great time to do some healing work. Let's take a moment and bring our awareness into the gap. You may feel the connection in the heart. The heart gets so activated. It gets so enlivened by moving awareness down through the denser levels of consciousness into the subtler levels of consciousness and into the junction between the silent source of creation and the deepest abstract level of the physiology. And hear the fountains of wisdom and knowledge that emerge from the source of creation. Bring forth the living presence of absolutely beautiful, rich, enriching sleep. They bring forth the essence of the laws of nature responsible for the deepest levels of physical healing, the most profound values of physical healing, the conditions and contexts in which the body is able to purify deeply in order to be refreshed, to refresh itself, to recreate itself in a form that upholds and supports robust health and energy, optimal digestion, improved eyesight, stronger bones, more robust tissues in the body all over, like richer hair growth and harder teeth and, as I mentioned, improved digestion. So the mitochondria are blessed and benefit from our sleep. The gut bacteria are blessed and benefit by the sleep. So there are laws of nature that oversee all these different functions, and they reside down in that noetic body. And these many laws of nature and many, we could say, healing intelligences in the body, right? Devatas that oversee, you have devatas that oversee like the heart functioning, the way it's structured during sleep time, and the nervous system, the way it functions during sleep time, and the hormonal activity, the way it unfolds during sleep time, all these things, all these. And it's like getting to know your family. It's your family down there. It's the family of healing intelligences that reside always in the body. They have always resided with you since the very earliest days. They have been members of your family for generations and generations, right? Because all the family members also sleep. They also have rejuvenation during their sleep. So these are like members of the family that don't die. They're members of the family that are passed from generation to generation, that sit with us from generation to generation, with one body after another, each one sharing a little bit the DNA of the previous. They sit at a subcellular level of the body. They speak to the epigenome. The epigenome controls the DNA, but the devatas, the laws of nature, control the epigenome. Then we get another word for the laws of nature is also the will of God. There's a process that happens there. It's not created by us, it's created by the divine. So the first thing that happens as the awareness is settling down, I mentioned that the heart opens and the gratitude flows to God. It flows to God. It flows to the divine. All glory to the intelligence responsible for the manifestation of humanity, for making us like this with these laws of nature, these physiologies. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So the first love, it's like your first love, really our first love. For most people, you think, oh, well, your first love is your mama, right? You're born and you're so little and she's like your whole world. But the first love is really the divine. It really is. In the beginning, the first love was the divine. And as the love flows to the divine, the laws of nature are nourished by our love, because divine being, that source of creation in the chart, right? That part at the bottom is infinite, unbounded, eternal. So as our love flows to the infinite, eternal, unbounded, absolute, it's multiplied to infinity. And infinite love flows back. It speaks to the heart. It creates like a song. You could say it's like a song, that wellspring of divine intelligence that comes up from the source of creation, from that gap, that junction between the individual and the absolute. And the wellspring brings sequences of expressions of intelligence that cultivate maturation in the heart and allow or uphold the ability to love more and experience more. Experience the love in more depth, in more detail, from a broader perspective, in a more stable manner. Stability. The wellspring, so the impulses of divinity that are coming through the gap all the time, they come up. We could go back to the chart, but anyway, it's a lot of back and forth. So at some point we'll look. I probably at some point, Tom, could you make a note for April, May? We need to do maybe a webinar on the fundamentals of divinity. Unless we already have. I lose track, you guys. I've done like something like 200 to 300 webinars now, so I kind of lose track sometimes. But that would be such a good one to do. Thank you. The point being that the fundamentals of divinity arise from the source of creation. They come through that wellspring, and the fundamentals of divinity are beautiful and simple. They're like the building blocks, like Legos, right? Legos of consciousness that we use. We snap them together in different ways. We intentionally, intentionally with our awareness, we choose the Legos are coming through all the time, right? The fundamentals are coming through all the time. And then we pick them up and we decide how we want to combine them in order to create different effects. And they include all kinds of really beautiful, simple, but profound um, energy signatures or forms, noetic forms of the divine, like purity and gratitude and adoration and innocence and mercy and truth, pure truth. So many, so many, I mean, almost infinite number, right? Just like Legos, they come in all kinds of colors and shapes and forms. And but they're all made of Legos are all made of plastic. They have those little bumps on them, so they can snap together. Anyway, the fundamentals of divinity are like that. They're these simple forms that we're all actually very familiar with. We've been with them, they've been with us all our lives, but they are the components of the laws of nature. When they combine in different ways, they start to set up relationship. And it's the relationship that gives rise to the body of various laws of nature. Also, thought forms. And this is where we need to just take a minute, because what I'm noticing looking out in the group, having to do with sleep, is that there can be like confusion, sometimes fear, uncertainty about the types of, I would say, elementals or living structures that exist within the noetic level of creation, because it's not so familiar to us as the physical material, right? And so it's kind of like uncharted territory. It can seem like uncharted territory sometimes. And the important thing is that you have autonomy over the combination of the fundamentals, and you have access to the fundamentals and all those forms of creation that are responsible for all of the blockages and the imbalances and all that. They are not bigger than you. They can't be. And they're certainly not bigger than God. So when the primary focus is to bring awareness down to that deep level for the sake of healing and for the sake of using the healed, more robust body to improve the relationship with the divine, you've automatically set yourself on a course that is impervious to negativity. Impervious to negativity. The energy signature of law of nature of being impervious to negativity is a seed that's planted in the noetic body, impervious to negativity. In the lap of God, we're sitting in the lap of God when awareness is established in the noetic body. And God doesn't let anything destructive come on his lap. Only good, only the highest good. So this form of being impervious to negativity softly transforms the structures of the noetic body that are connected like tentacles to activity at the surface of life, which is not a complete expression of your highest potential. At the surface of life, there's so much good we can do. There's so much charity that we can perform. Charity on so many levels, right? charity in terms of seeing the best in others, charity in terms of devoting our time and energy and resources to supporting the wellness of the field around us, everyone around us, and so forth. All these, it's good. With humility, right? With humility. So there are these tentacles that connect between the way our actions and behaviors show up at the surface and the forms in the noetic body that are neutralized by the seed of being impervious to negativity. Impervious, so what that means is that impervious to negativity correlates with right action. It correlates with honorable, truthful action, action that reflects your full potential, your incredibleness and your adorableness and your truth, the simple truth of your nature as a being. So beautiful. You are so beautiful. You are so beautiful. That's another seed right there. That's also going into the noetic body. These seeds, by the way, plant them as you will. You can drop them into the source of creation and multiply them up to infinite number and plant. Or you can don't plant at all. It's up to you. But the planting takes place in deep sleep, and it feeds and heals the noetic level of the physiology, which is the foundation. It is the underlayment of the denser levels of the physiology. And so these seeds are surfacing so that, and they're, as they surface, they establish, because we look at them and we talk about them, and that helps them integrate and stabilize in the noetic body. And as that happens, it upholds a condition or context for optimal sleep and for optimal health. And we know that good sleep and good health kind of go hand in hand. So yes, you are beautiful. Your simple truth, your essential nature, the blueprint from which the fabric of your being was cut was divine. It's divine being. It's the highest and best of all things. So that energy comes forth as an energy signature. We put it in your basket. We keep it in a file, on the level of consciousness, to be cherished and explored and expanded upon in the sleep and dream state. The noetic body likes it. It's like candy for the noetic body, these types of seeds. Because the noetic body knows that it's truth. Truth is cherished because it's divine. Because the source of creation is a field of pure truth. So there, truth, that's one of the fundamentals, right? We're like, we take the building blocks, we put them together in different seed forms. And then if we want to, we take them apart and look at the building blocks again and see, oh yes, pure truth, that's one of them. Your beautiful essential nature that emerges from the divine source of creation. Oh, it has pure truth as one of its building blocks. And what the building block of pure truth does is it communicates to the denser levels of the body, the mental, emotional, and physical body, the condition of trust. Pure truth gives rise to trust. And it gives rise to a particular flavor of trust that allows the autonomic nervous system to feel peaceful, at ease, at home, on the lap of God. comfortable, and supports really good sleep. It also supports the ability to navigate difficult or challenging situations in a more graceful manner. So, pure truth interacts with the autonomic nervous system in a way that stabilizes the ability of the physical body to feel that trust and love and sweetness that allows for deepest sleep. And it's like a light medicine, right? We bring it up we take our awareness, we put our awareness upon it. As we put our awareness upon the fundamental of pure truth, we wake it up, we enliven it. There's a relationship between individual awareness and the fundamentals of divinity, because these fundamentals, all the forms that sit in the noetic body, but they also sit in the mental, emotional, that we could say the etheric double, okay, the etheric aspect of the form of the noetic, the forms of the non-noetic, mental, emotional, or physical. They have a kind of life in them. They're not just dead things. They're living. They're living. They're living. Pure truth is a living thing. It's like the living waters that spring from the high points in the mountain, the source of the rivers. The springs that issue forth from the high points in the mountains are living, the living waters. They're the waters of divinity washing over the entire body, from the finest level to the densest superficial level, cleansing, purifying, upholding highest health, upholding balanced functioning. You're just letting that, just soaking in that for a minute, all the layers of the physiology, from the physical material down to the noetic, just soaking in that for a little bit. It's also a kind of seed. It's a form of consciousness that's yours. I'm looking at the time. We have about a half an hour, I think. No. Oh, is it really already 8:15? Oh, yeah. Right. So we have about half an hour, but a lot of questions came in. So let's go ahead and dig into some of these questions, because I don't want to leave so many for tomorrow that, we're completely out of time. And it's always a little sad to me when I don't get to everyone's questions. So, and thank you guys. So here's a question that came in from the email. In the middle of one night, while sleeping soundly, I suddenly got conscious of myself breathing out heavily. Next moment, my body sank down as an extra long breath came out from deep within. Started feeling my body sinking down, but wondered for a minute what that was while keeping my eyes still closed. Then I saw clearly from my mind's eye the anger energy in a form of a distorted, screaming face leaving my body from the solar plexus. Upon waking up in the morning, I realized the old lump in my diaphragm area was gone. The lump was just there all the time for decades without any pains except for some digestive discomfort. Now it is gone and purified out of my body in one long outbreath. I'm so grateful. There have been other poignant dreams of healing, but this one actually manifested in a spontaneous physical healing. Beautiful experience, right? Oh my goodness. If only every healing were that easy, that graceful. This is an experience of a thought form that was sitting in the body. And it was sitting Yes, in the physical body. So she felt it, right? She felt it in the etheric double of the physical body as a kind of pressure in the solar plexus. But even the emotional element, which was anger, was so subtle that it tended that over all those years, it was kind of escaping awareness. She only noticed it when it was leaving the body, like the full form of it with all of its emotional elements. And so I'm just looking to what degree this healing, and for all the bodies that are here, everybody who's here, any spots in the body where there's a thought form that's stuck, that disallows the flow of divine grace and wholeness and fullness, the fundamentals of divinity, to express themselves all the way up to the material level of the physiology. For a lot of people, I'm seeing thought forms in the head area, particularly like senses of perception, the ears, the eyes. Some of them are held in. Well, they're all held in with some discordant feelings. I'm also seeing at the noetic level thought forms that block the flow of robust energy into the body and are responsible for experiences like thinning of the bones and the hair, and uh, sort of making the tissues of the body more delicate and weak, more tender. Under that, I'm seeing a thought form at a very deep level of that affects the ego, and uh, this is ancestral. It's an ancestral pattern that goes way back of insufficient. I know we've looked at that particular form before, but it comes in. It's one of the ones that's so sort of deeply embedded into the field of humanity that we often are addressing it again from different angles and perspectives. But at this time, in this healing webinar, we're addressing it from an ancestral perspective, which means sitting at a subcellular level of the physiology, sitting in the epigenome. Remember, I was saying that the epigenome controls the expression of the DNA, but the healing intelligence of the body controls the epigenome. So the healing intelligence of the body moves into that subcellular level of the physiology, also into the ancestral archive as a beloved and honored member of the family. The particular intelligence that holds the seed of the beauty and the perfection and the reality of your essential truth. Remember, that was a seed we were looking at before. Now that seed is being applied. It's being applied by the intelligence, the deep noetic intelligence of the physiology at the epigenomic level of the physiology, also in the ancestral archive. Your truth. And when I say your truth, I'm talking to the ancestors too, right? So not just your truth, but all of your truth, all of your truth, all of you cut from the cloth of divinity. That essential truth, which is so beautiful, it's so simple and yet so profound. It takes a lifetime, or maybe multiple lifetimes. How many multiple lifetimes? Or lifetimes of many generations to integrate that truth so that it is completely understood. It is something, the understanding of that truth comes through the lens of the eye of God. You could say it comes through, it's filtered through the heart of the divine. It's filtered through the infinite love, the infinite unconditional love of the divine. So there, the love softens the truth. You know, truth is such a big thing, and it has a lot of, I'm going to say impact. It impacts our world so profoundly that it can be overwhelming. But we're less likely to be overwhelmed when there's trust. The trust helps us relax into the reality in which we exist. It helps us relax into the truth and to allow it to simply to transform the structure of our being. It's a continuous transformation. It's like a continuous prayer, perpetual prayer. It's like perpetual prayer that we give over to the divine, and the divine washes us anew. And then we give over to the divine, and then the divine washes us anew again and again and again and again, forever and ever, as long as we live in our bodies and probably beyond. It's not a static situation. We are not in a static situation. We are in a situation in the human life of transformation, deep, profound, endless transformation. And we are establishing in this healing session the trajectory of that transformation as absolutely evolutionary through the grace of our relationship with the divine, through God's grace and mercy. The body's able to trust a little bit. It's able to go with the transformation and allow it, like perpetual prayer. And using the evolving form as a vehicle for understanding even more deeply and even more profoundly our relationship with the divine, enhancing that relationship. So the divine enhances the physiology. The physiology, enhanced physiology, has an improved relationship with divinity. The improved relationship with divinity turns back intentionally. This is the energy healing part. We turn back to use that relationship to better enhance and support the health of the physiology. And then it's like an endless loop, an endless cycle, perpetual prayer. Anyway, I could go on about that, but let's go back to sleep and look at some more questions, shall we? My husband talks out loud while dreaming. How can that be healed? When a person talks out loud while dreaming is almost always a sign that there's some big purification going on. There are hormones that are produced in the sleeping nervous system, in the dreaming and sleeping nervous system, that put the body a little bit into like rigid, I want to say frozen. You know, so if you dream that you're running, you don't actually get out of bed, and your body doesn't get out of bed and start running around, right? But when the purification's very intense and the imbalances are coming all the way out to the surface level of the body, the like the facility by which the body is producing these particular hormones is compromised a little bit. And so if in the dream you think, I'm saying this to somebody, then you actually you start saying it, you know, your body starts saying it. So the healing comes through bringing ease to the sleep and dream process. Part of the story is, I would say, Now, I don't know this lady's husband that well, but I would say a man who's been fairly driven in his life to accomplish a lot. And so there's been a kind of a pushing, some element of pushing himself. And the result of the pushing is that even in his dream and sleep states, he's pushing a little bit, pushing to get rid of as much stress as quickly as possible, something like that. And the shift happens within the context of the ego or sense of self, that we push ourselves because we expect a lot from ourselves and we expect that we are responsible for how everything turns out. Whereas the truth is, the simple truth is that we do not do it. We engage in a relationship with the divine, which does everything. And really, the divine decides how things turn out. We don't decide it, right? We decide what actions we're going to take. We decide how we're engaging with the divine, but the divine does everything. And so that little piece is a little bit missing for his ego. And so there's like, you could say there's like a little bit of arrogance, or I think arrogance is a little bit too crude of a word, because it's really more like just feeling the weight of responsibility, but feeling like he's got to carry it all himself and that it's all on him. I mean, along with that, comes that feeling of like, I did it, I have to do it, I'm doing it, I get the credit. I get the credit when it's all done. But the truth is that the divine gets all the credit, because God gets all the credit, because God's really doing everything. And we're just sitting back, we're witnessing it. We're witnessing it. So there more of the quality, the seed that gets planted at the noetic level for your husband, is the seed of God does it all. And I just witness. I am only expected to witness. I'm expected to witness my relationship with divinity as the divine comes forth, issues forth into this creation and structures everything, every outcome. Because everybody knows deep in their heart that, when I say deep in the heart, right, actually structuring for him dreams, because they're overseen or administrated through the series of different emotional changes that occur during the sleep and dream time. So we're structuring that coordination of various turns of the heart that allow him to let go of like personal attachment to the outcomes, and while continuing to take responsibility for actions, give the outcomes back over to the divine. That's the purification, right? The purification is the divine does it. I don't do it. I don't do it. We have to let go. It's like a familiar old friend, right? We get sort of burdened by the burdens that we carry. They're like friends. They're old, and some of them have been with us a long time. And as we let them go, there's a little bit of a feeling of like, oh, you've been with me a long time. I need you. And so gently, can you see the dream that goes along with it? It's so simple, right? It's like saying goodbye. You say goodbye to somebody. And then when they leave, you think, this is him. This is in his dream. We're just following him in his dream a little bit. And then when it leaves, he thinks, oh, I'm kind of grateful. I'm grateful that my friend was here. And now I'm grateful that my friend has gone on to a better place, in a more appropriate location in creation, where my friend can do more good than he was doing here. Because everything has its appropriate place and location, right? In the creation. Everything has its appropriate location in the creation. And relax. And then he relaxes, and there's a sigh. It's like an out breath. There's a sigh in his body. He lets it go. He lets it go, and he relaxes into the hormonal flow that even quiets down the vocal mechanism in the mouth and all that. It's a series of sleep experiences, right? So we go through it. I'm just showing it. I'm speaking it as we go through it, but it's something that he actually experiences in his dream time. Today, when I woke up, it felt like waking was still a dream. Ooh, how many people have had that experience? I remember so clearly one time when I was in my early, oh yeah, lots of people raising their hands. In my early 20s, I dreamed I was running across this field of dried grasses, and they're all kind of goldeny yellow. And I was running, and then I woke up and I looked at my clock and I realized, oh, I'm late for this meeting. I'm late for this thing that I was going to go to. And I just threw my clothes on, and I hadn't even used the restroom. I just ran out the door, and I was on foot, going to this meeting. And I found myself running across a field of gold. It was in the wintertime. And so all the grasses were dried and goldeny. And as I was running across the field, I was like, wait a minute, this looks so familiar. While the dream felt closer to waking, like they were becoming one and the same. One of the first things that happens, or maybe it's not one of the first, but it's definitely one of the important things that happens, is we start having lucid dreaming. The dreams do become the waking consciousness, the way our nervous systems function in waking consciousness starts to become very, very integrated. In fact, across the entire field of nervous system experience, integration occurs so that even, well, the last healing that we had is a good example of that, right? We were able to visit this lady's husband in his dream state because the nervous system was able to take on the dream state functioning, even though we're in waking state, even though I'm in waking state and I'm here awake and I know I'm awake and I know I'm talking to you. The part of my nervous system that's able to be in dream state and to meet you guys in the dream state, right? Because there's an environment there and it has its own special laws of nature that it functions under, right? And so that part of the nervous system was able to kind of activate and become lively so that even though I'm sitting here in my waking state speaking, that part was able to go meet him in his dream. And even though in his dream state, he's probably not sleeping right now, it doesn't matter because that part of the nervous system functions independent of time. Noetic, the noetic level. We move around. There's a part of our nervous system, even when we're awake and doing stuff in the material field, which is completely unconstrained by space and time and can move all over the place and go all kinds of places and see and do all kinds of things. And this is what happens as consciousness rises, right? That the nervous system, the vehicle, which is healing, remember the perpetual prayer, is transforming and healing the nervous system, becomes capable of functioning the way it would function in waking and dreaming and sleeping all the time. So that means that there's some waking experience also during dream and deep sleep time, right? So one remembers there's the conscious awareness is the factor that promotes more effective healing during sleep and dream time, which is one of the things I really thought would be beautiful to talk about in this webinar, is not just it's nice to do healings that help us sleep better, more soundly, but it's also, I think, important and very beautiful to look at the evolutionary nature of dream and sleep states and how that period, it's like a third of everyone's day, right? Like a third of our lives we spend sleeping. How the efficiency of the evolutionary process is enhanced when the nervous system is in dream and sleep states, which is why it's so beautiful when the integration starts to occur. Oh, yeah, healing for that. So there's a seed. There's a seed. Integration, right? Integration is one of the fundamentals, one of the Legos. It's one of the building blocks, one of the aspects of fundamentals of divinity. Integration of the nervous system and of the states that the nervous system experiences from waking, dreaming, sleeping. And I think we need to add in there transcendental consciousness, because transcendental consciousness is the gap through which the awareness moves to get from waking to dreaming to sleeping, but also as it permeates the nervous system physically and those states of consciousness, it helps to bring together those experiences so that they reside side by side, so that they exist in harmony, in such harmony with each other that the witnessing awareness of the individual can just navigate through them like nothing. It's like that chart, right? We can navigate through the chart at any time in any way that we wish. I feel the shift happening in the heart. It's happening in the ego or the sense of self. It's opening up the conception of oneself, of what one can actually do and be. And so it's broadening the perspective on the sense of self. And it's essentially activating or enlivening the simple truth of who we really are, what we actually look like, filtered through the lens of the eye of the divine. Your full potential. I have to say, though, it comes along with the stabilization, integration of the highest, most honorable ways in which the personality shows up in this world. It's not enough. It's not enough to simply evolve the consciousness. We evolve the maturation and wisdom of the heart so that the power that comes with the evolution of consciousness is used to express and perpetuate the intentions of the divine in this world. This thing that I just said, this connection between the evolution of consciousness and the actions and behaviors in the world, the connection being made through the intentions of the divine, is the key to being invincible to all negativity, immune to negativity. This is the key. One has to give up a lot sometimes. Attachments, to achieving certain things that aren't useful in the long term, are not useful to the evolutionary process. We start to change. Life becomes simpler. It's okay. It's why in this session, we went through that process of letting go. Part of the healing for today was looking in depth at the process of letting go of attachments. Yeah, you guys, a lot of questions have come in. Oh my goodness. We did the 3 minutes of silence. Here's the lady. She said, I had a strange dream experience last night where I felt I was living a different reality, very real, and got woken up by being vibrated from below until I spoke the words, get out. Then I had to remind myself where I was, the city, the time frame, who I was, etc. Would that be astral traveling? It wasn't necessarily pleasant, and I'd prefer not to if possible. So again, the experiences, you guys are smart. When you're having an experience that maybe has a little negativity in it. These experiences are informative. Don't worry, they're not going to overwhelm you as long as your intentions are pure to continue making the changes at the surface of life in the field of action that align action with the highest intentions of divinity, God's highest intentions for the expression of our potential. It's okay if you don't achieve the pinnacle of that on the first try. Everyone makes mistakes. We're aiming in a direction. We're not necessarily completely achieving it at every point. And it's completely okay, because it's the aim that's important. It's the aim that protects you from negativity. It's the aim that it protects you from intruders. It's the aim that protects you from entities of all types and varieties. It's that sweet, humble willingness to go for an expression of what is the highest to the best of your ability. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. That's all. So when something like this comes up, what it does is it points to or it indicates some little area where an adjustment or a tweaking of the behavior can be made to help your experience in this world be on a higher level, a more graceful level, a more blessed level. That's all. I see it coming up from the area between the gut area and the heart area. Right in that area, there's a little thought form. It's like a justification is clearing from the area between the heart and the gut. So it's solar plexus, but it looks a little deeper to me, like maybe navel area, around the navel, or the second chakra, second, third chakra areas where it looks like it's sitting. There's a justification for a particular type of interaction, interactions with the material world, which aren't absolutely perfectly aligned with the intentions of the divine. It's okay. It's like there's a download of truth coming in right there. The truth comes, it's like the light of truth comes, and it's always more powerful than the thought forms, always. And as the light of truth comes in and kind of reveals or shows that shift that needs to take place, that thought form that needs to be returned to the source of creation and re-established in a more appropriate location in creation. As that happens, it's a blessing. It's just a blessing. And there, I see that there are also some attachments, there's justifications, right? So those, all these are like the scaffolding at the denser, like the mental, emotional, and physical level that sort of hold those thought forms in place. So justifications clear, the attachments clear, impressions clear. Impressions. Everything's offered back with so much gratitude, so much appreciation. Is a dream state closer to the divine? It's so abstract. Yes, it's more at the feeling level. Dream state is definitely administrated by the orderly flow and orderly evolutionary transformation of feelings from one to another, which is why in the dream state, we experience the environment sometimes as very chaotic, because the awareness is not so much on the environmental expression, it's more on the feeling that sort of pins all those more chaotic experiences together. Guys, I'm looking at the time, and already I can't believe we've finished our time. So we'll pick up tomorrow where we left off today. For those of you who can't join me tomorrow, don't worry. You'll get the recording anyway, so you can watch it that way. And the healings are just as powerful and amazing on, watching them on the stream as they are in lifetime. And although I love you guys being with me here on Lifetime, because there's something very sweet and enriching about it, I just absolutely adore it. I love your company. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to keep, speaking of sleep and dreams, I don't want to keep the folks on the East Coast up very late past their bedtime. It's nice to be in bed before 10. So we'll go ahead and stop right here. But tomorrow we'll pick up where we left off with the questions. Lots of beautiful, amazing. I can't believe how many questions came in tonight. Absolutely, like 26 questions came in. So we'll start right in with questions tomorrow. And as much as possible, I will do healings with every one of them. Thank you, everyone, for being with me tonight. It's been so lovely, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Sweet dreams, everybody.